This park is nothing short of a playground, intertwining art installations, educational material, a performance space, and a number of gardens that somehow always seem to be in bloom. Yet this is not where I venture first. Despite the absolute wonder that runs rampant through this place, I am partial to a trail nestled into a corner of the park, lovingly built and infrequently visited. The Preserve Trail, half a mile in the free air. I am struck not by the natural beauty around me, but by what man has made of it. The trees along this trail are spectacularly graffitied, lending their bodies and limbs to artists that stretch as far back as the early 90s. In many places, the trees have begun to warp themselves around the carved edges, making large, dark splotches of Jim and Jen from 1994. Whether this comes from an instinct of wanting to reclaim or recede from the site of injury, I'm not sure. Most of these trees lie just off the path, just far enough to jump through the railing and feel mischievous, but certainly close enough that none of the carvers could claim to be outdoorsmen by any stretch of the imagination. Most of the carvings follow largely the same pattern. Sets of initials, bound together by plus signs or X's, encircled in hearts, or time-stamped with a year. This is not to say there were no exceptions. A tree that was branded with the word outlaw, written by someone who had clearly never been and would likely never be an outlaw, comes to mind. Yet, overwhelmingly, these carvings depict vague, romantically intertwined pairs, picking up a knife and hoping that their love would last as long as this antiquated tradition. I thought about the lovers themselves. Who among them had made it, whatever that means? Who first suggested leaving their mark, and who first picked up the knife? Who had a family? Who occasionally traveled back to the park to remember the beginning of their beautiful chaos? Who regrets having ever come to the park in the first place, and who had forgotten altogether, if not their love, then the physical memento it left behind? I see a familiar set of letters, AM, paired with an unfamiliar CL, and I wonder about the distant universe in which I am madly in love with someone whose name I do not even know. Part of what's charming about these carvings is their anonymity. It's easy to imagine giddy teenagers with pocket knives, taking to the woods, hiding their not-so-secret loves from their teasing environment, while still declaring that love in a public place. Yet the thought occurs to me that it is not only adolescents who have something to hide about their love. I wonder how many of these initials belong to couples with far more to lose than teasing, should anyone find out. For lovers torn apart by hatred and bigotry, the only safe place to be honest is in the bark of someone else's body. The trees become a billboard for all that which we cannot proudly own ourselves. A love that cannot be spoke by our own voice, but whistled through the trees. Walking down this path, I keep returning to a remark 3 or 4 years in my past. Some people are so intent on leaving their mark on the world that they don't care if that mark is a scar. It's still up for debate as to whether or not carving into trees is harmful to them, but there's certainly something violent and old world in brandishing a knife to declare one's love. There is, too, a violence in that love. That's something that has so much potential for harm. When we take to the tree bark, we are giddy with love, reckless with our hearts, and roughly claiming that which was never ours to begin with. We carve ourselves into that which will stand long after we are gone, even if it means lessening both lives that way. This, I think, is the root of the impulse towards natural graffiti. We seek something more permanent than ourselves. For so many of the pairs of past lovers, the most permanent thing about their relationship is this mark that they've put into a tree. We seek some physical proof that we were here, that we were in love, damn it. We want to make permanent that which is inherently temporary, and we do that in the only way we know how. We want to last, to have a lasting impact on the world around us, and in this, I suppose, we succeed. We want love to be more than what it is. We want it to be permanent. As far as the tree knows, Jim and Jen are still madly in love, just like they were in 1994, just like we said we would be forever. But we are not trees. We know that it is impossible. And this is what we take instead. A promise between the tree and ourselves to remember the time in which we truly believed in forever. Though I've never personally carved my name into anything sturdier than a box of leftovers, I have a connection to this practice that runs deeper than a mild fascination. My name is, in fact, carved into a tree, along with 4 others, on the banks of a creek in Springfield, Ohio. My grandfather carved the names of each of his grandchildren into this tree, one by one, as we were born. We got older, and he hung 2 swings on one of the tree branches for us to rest on. My brother's name was famously left unfinished for years, and so the tree proclaimed of my brother Andre instead of Andrew. And when our family grew faster than the tree, Catherine got placed out of order at the top, just in time to let both of our fathers go. This tree has been a part of my family longer than I have, and it's easily one of the things I am most afraid to lose when my aunt and mother talk in hushed tones about moving my grandfather somewhere south. It's not me that I'm afraid of losing, or my cousins, or even my grandpa. What I can't bear to lose, what the carvings really memorialize, is the love between us, of patterns that somehow continue even when we are no longer there to perpetuate them. I'm desperately trying to hold on to that which must be let go, which is to say everything. Nothing is permanent. Not me, or the trees, or their scars. As I approach the end of the boardwalk trail, I am reminded of the only temporarily permanent mark that I have made on nature's wood. On a dead tree, leaned over a river, and in a black ballpoint pen, I once scrawled, "That it will never come again is what makes life so sweet."